ready.
Okay, we ready? Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to call to order the Sumner City Council meeting. The date is October 5th and the time is 6 p.m. As a reminder to everyone out there, the council members and staff are attending this meeting virtually. The City Hall remains closed during the governor's Safe Start order, consequence of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the meeting is open to the public via the Zoom link and the call-in information that is posted on our website. And would start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you would join me in that. I pledge allegiance to the flag liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. And then we have a newcomer in terms of invocations today. We have the Reverend Dion Corselius.
Corselius.
Right?
That's right, Corselius.
Corselius, okay. Boy, I tell you, I knew I would murder this thing. It would just be terrible, and I apologize for that. I'm just going to call you Reverend Dion.
No, it sounds good, Mayor Pugh.
Okay, please go ahead for the invocation.
Okay, let us pray. New every day is your love, great God of light, and all day long you are working for good in the world. Stir up in us desire to serve you, to live peacefully with our neighbors and with all your creation, and to devote each and every day to building love, building a beloved community, building a place for our neighbors to listen deeply to one another, to celebrate all identities, to celebrate differences, knowing that we are all your beloved children created in your image. Holy One, help us to support one another in love, to bring about healing, friendship, justice, love, and bridge building. And we return thanks to you, O God, for this day which you have made, for the gift of community, to even be gathered right here, right now on this call, and for the gift of being stewards of your many, many resources that you have blessed each and every one of us with. We give you thanks for our families, our friends, our neighbors, and we also lift up prayers and thoughts for families and individuals who mourn, particularly those that are struggling and experiencing COVID-19, and stand with them in our prayers. Holy One, we pray that you raise our level of consciousness to the injustices in the world and in our communities. And we pray for our neighbors and people experiencing homelessness. We pray for communities of color that are experiencing racism. Move us as a community and as neighbors to understand one another better. We pray for our neighbors that are experiencing homelessness. We pray for mothers, fathers, youth, children, veterans, elected officials, first responders, and for all of us, even in this moment right now, as we collaborate, listen, and do the work, the important work of building community here. We offer these prayers unto you. In your many names we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Dion. Appreciate the words, and nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you all. Happy to.
Okay, Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Potato,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Hayden,
Here.
Hochstetter,
Councilmember Hochstetter gave me notice that she would not be attending tonight's meeting. She has a conflict, so she's excused.
Newman,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Reed,
Here.
Okay, thank you, council members. Now we move on to presentations, and the first thing we have is the Port of Tacoma. It's a presentation on their strategic plan. There he is, turned on that video feed. And we're blessed today to have Commissioner John McCarthy here to talk about Port of Tacoma. And nice seeing you, sir. And I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pugh, council members, and City Administrator Wilson. My name is John McCarthy, and I am the Port of Tacoma Commission President. On behalf of my fellow commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to share with you and the residents of Sumner information about the port's strategic planning process and the many ways to provide input and feedback to the port. Before I start sharing some information about the strategic plan, I'd like to provide some background on the port to help set context and explain the importance of our strategic planning process. Washington is the most trade-dependent state in the nation, with 40% of its jobs related to international trade in one way or another. The Port of Tacoma is considered one of the region's economic engines, and we are half of the Northwest Seaport Alliance, an alliance created 5 years ago with the Port of Seattle. And that alliance is now the fourth largest cargo gateway in the United States. A study revealed in 2017 highlighted the economic impact of the port's real estate and marine cargo operations for that year. It was found that it supported more than 42,000 jobs, generated nearly $3 billion in economic activity, and produced more than $100 million annually in state and local taxes to support education, police, fire services, and road improvements. As you know, the Port of Tacoma is a county-wide organization. The port has a long history of partnerships and investments in the county, including, for an example, an industrial area in Frederickson. When the port purchased that land in 1968, it was to help bring economic vitality to the South Sound. What was once bare land without utilities and roads is now a successful manufacturing and industrial center for companies like Boeing and IKEA. And more importantly, an area offering thousands of local family wage jobs to the men and women who live in Pierce County, including Sumner. Sumner also has a successful and growing manufacturing and industrial area, with many of the businesses using the Northwest Seaport Alliance and the Port of Tacoma facilities, as well as that in Seattle. The Port Commission recognizes that the infrastructure that's needed for successful warehousing, manufacturing, and distribution centers is expensive. And that's why we've regularly partnered with your city on road projects that benefit the movement of freight. Just this summer, the Port Commission announced two local economic development investment fund partnerships with the city of Sumner, giving support to those projects. Rarely does an applicant receive two awards in the same year, but the 166th Avenue East reconfiguration project and the replacement of the White River Bridge benefit multiple transportation modes, as well as providing significant economic benefits. Congratulations for those. I was appointed by the Ports of Washington State to represent and be a member of the Freight Mobility Strategic Investment Board. Through this organization, I've learned the importance of partnership and grants. And the financial contributions are important, but the letters of support and collaboration with our local communities are critical. Recently, on September 18th of this year, I was at a Freight Mobility Strategic Investment Board meeting where we received a presentation by two of your staff members, Mike Dalem, Public Works Director, and Michael Kosa, Associate City Engineer, on the benefits and the projects that the city of Sumner is engaged in with regard to the Stewart Road corridor, as well as the White River Bridge replacement project. I'm happy to be part of that board and happy that the Freight Mobility Strategic Investment Board supported that project to the tune of $3 million commitment to the initial phases of the project. Let me step to the strategic planning process. It was the previous plan was prepared prior to the creation of the Northwest Seaport Alliance. The alliance between Tacoma and Seattle, which was formed 5 years ago. And last year, we hired a new director of the Port of Tacoma, Eric Johnson. And one of his first directives was to begin work on a strategic plan that focused on the non-marine cargo businesses in which the port can statutorily engage. The alliance is focused on operation of the and management of the marine facilities, but the Port of Tacoma is now focusing in our strategic planning process on the non-marine cargo businesses. The commission and staff are excited about this work, and because you know your constituents, we need to hear your ideas to identify the next big economic development opportunities that are important to Sumner citizens. Assisting me today is Yvette Mason, who's our Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, and Yvette's put on the screen 4 ways that you can get involved in our strategic planning process. We hired a consulting firm. They're helping us in this project, and they prepared a timeline, which is the next slide, for our high-level overview of our strategic planning process. Public engagement is essential to the success of this planning process, and we'll be reaching out to ask for feedback at key milestones along the way. Although the process, as you can see, is expected to go into the first quarter of 2021, it's important to provide your feedback early so that it can be incorporated into the Commission's discussions on goals and initiatives. So how can you provide input? Next slide, if you would. First, you can visit our online open house. I think one of our most effective outreach tools, especially in our current COVID environment, is our online strategic plan open house website. Normally, these would be conducted in person, so we're being innovative and we're doing it virtually. And that website, www.portoftacoma.com open house, will remain open for a few months. I would encourage each of you, if you would, to please spend some time on the site to find out more about our process and our draft goal areas. At this time, they include economic development, infrastructure, real estate, the environment, and they will include a transportation piece as well. Next slide, please. I'd ask you to take our online survey. Please give us your ideas and input by taking the survey. The link for this website is once again www.openhouse.portoftacoma.com. Our number 3, our next slide, give us a call. The old-fashioned, we don't want to miss any ideas. So even if we take old-fashioned phone calls to connect with people about our strategic plan, please give us a call. Next slide, please. Finally, you can send us an email at strategicplan@portoftacoma.com. I would ask each of you if you'd spend some time talking to your constituents and sharing your thoughts with us on current partnerships, but we also want to hear new ideas on how we can better support Sumner's economic development initiatives. So please take the time to make your voices heard during this process to develop a new strategic plan for Pierce County's port. Thank you for your time, and I would be very pleased to answer any questions. And I would be remiss in saying, Mayor, if you don't mind me saying, I'm happy to report to you that my father graduated from Sumner High School 85 years ago. So he is a Spartan. And so for his son to be back before the city council would be an honor for our family. Thanks for having me this evening.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McCarthy. Any comments or questions that council members would have of Commissioner McCarthy? Councilmember Botetto, then Councilmember Newman.
So I was wondering, is it possible to take a tour of the port, to really learn more about it?
We would love to have you have a tour. Yvette Masons, who is on this call, is taking notes, and Yvette is absolutely the person to schedule the tour. So she has your message, and I know she'll be back in touch with you. It would be important to us for you to understand that what we're doing down there. And if you're not afraid of heights, maybe there's an opportunity to get you up in a plane as well.
Okay, yeah, all right, thank you.
Councilmember Newman.
I'm wondering in terms, like, how far out does the strategic plan project? Like, how many years is that planning out? And are there any hurdles that you're concerned about?
Let me just thank you, by the way, council member. I know you've been actively involved in the Tide Flats industrial area in that process. And so we appreciate your efforts there.
I was going to leave that alone, but
Okay, all right. Well, appreciate your efforts on behalf of the Tide Flats. But I think generally we're looking at some short-term 5 years, and then we're looking at some longer terms. I don't think we've finally decided how far out we want to look, but Yvette, do you have an answer to that? I know we want to have some strategies clearly in place and moving forward and see some results within 5 years. How far out, Yvette, do you recall that we're actually going to look for?
Yes, Commissioner, you're absolutely correct. There are some projects that we hope will be done more in the short term within the next 5 years. And then we're hoping to have some longer term initiatives and projects probably in the 10 to 12 year time frame. But again, part of it is what is the economy doing? Are there land purchases? What is the project? And although the strategic plan is moving along, we're still at that feedback input period. So I would say long-term 10 to 12.
okay, thank you both. And I'm just delinquent in reading it, but I'll catch up on it. Thank you.
Okay, any other council members that have any questions or comments on the strategic plan, for the Tacoma strategic plan? Seeing none, Commissioner McCarthy, I just want to express our appreciation. You talk about your support of our current projects and about staff going down and you know, always searching for money and getting some, but you've always been there for us in the past too. You know, when you go back and look at the Traffic Avenue interchange, you were involved in that. And it is very much appreciated because when we're looking for money elsewhere, the fact that we have partnerships like with the Port of Tacoma goes a long ways in securing other dollars. It's critical. So thank you very much for that support. And thank you very much for going through a strategic plan. I remember my days back in Tacoma. Port of Tacoma was the economic engine for Pierce County. And I believe that it, you know, still is. And so it's just a question of how you shape that and look into the future to remain, you know, effective and supportive of not only the port, but all the communities around us, including Sumner. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor, for having me. I appreciate. Good to see you again. Look forward to seeing all of you in person someday. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, remember when Councilmember Potato goes down there that we want her back.
Okay.
So don't lose her out there. It's a big scary place. So
it's a two-way trip. We'll get her back.
okay. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, both Yvette and Commissioner McCarthy. You're welcome to stick around and watch, or you can probably use better sense and sign off and go do other things. So we'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we move on to proclamations, and Michelle reminded me that instead of me just excusing Councilmember Hochstetter, is that in the past we've actually had a motion. So I'd ask for a motion to excuse Member Hochstetter from tonight's meeting.
I'll
Councilmember,
make a motion to excuse Councilmember Hochstetter. She did tell me in advance that she would be missing this meeting.
right? Okay, could I get a second too?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Potato. All those in favor of excusing Councilmember Hochstetter from tonight's meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. Councilmember Hochstetter is excused. And that leads us on to proclamations. And the first one is the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I would call on Tanya Tunnell Thornhill, Executive Director of Exodus Housing.
Hello, thank you everybody for having us here. I've got my family service specialist, Marisa Plon, with me. Hello. And I'll just give you a little bit of background about Exodus, and then I'm going to turn it over to her to do more of the case management piece and the actual work that we do with the clients. And then you guys feel free to answer any question. Ask any questions. Exodus Housing was founded here in Sumner in 1994 by a local businessman and minister. It started out as a transitional housing program, and then at some point over the last 8 to 10 years, moved into a rapid rehousing program. We serve families fleeing from domestic violence and who have no other resources to secure housing on their own. Oh, and I'm sorry, I should mention we have a staff of 5 too. I meant to say that. We have 3 full-time and 2 part-time staff that all work with clients and or do some administrative stuff. So we get these clients into our program, and our mission is to house them as quickly as possible and then provide a monthly rental assistance to help them stay in that unit. And then we also offer our case management services, which Marie will go into more about what that means. But all of these things help these families not only become safe from their abuser, but also get into stable housing. And then the goal over the course of time is to have them stay in that housing and retain it on their own, paying the full rent without Exodus Housing's help. Our outcomes that we like to see is that at least 80% of our clients that are exiting stay housed, and that 60% increase their income from entry to exit. And we're doing really good. Even with COVID happening right now, we are at 89% retaining housing and 86% increasing their income. So even with the pandemic, we're doing a good job helping families to stay housed and get the resources they need so that even once they leave our program and they get in a bind, they know who to turn to. And of course, they're always welcome to call our agency and ask us for additional resources. We are serving, since January, we have served about 110 families, and I do foresee helping more. I'm not quite sure how many more, but maybe at least 10 more before the end of the year. And that would be about 328 individuals. So most of those are children. 110 families means there's 110 head of households. So that's a lot of kids affected by domestic violence that we've been able to help. And the last thing I want to say is the average length of stay in our program is about 11 months. Some families definitely need a little more time, and others can be out sooner. It's really up to the family. Our program is client-centered, and Marie will talk a little more about that. And simply that just means that we're their cheerleaders, we help them, but it's their path. They get to make all the choices about, what they want their path to look like in our program. So with that said, I'm going to let Marie say a little bit more about the case management piece.
Great. Hi, good evening, and thank you again for having us this evening to share about Exodus Housing. So my role as a family support specialist is basically to help the families find housing. So we're looking anywhere in Pierce County where we will be able to house them. It's a little bit tricky now with COVID, but we are being successful in finding units for the family. So we help them with connecting with those units, doing applications for the unit. And then at that point, once they meet the criteria and get in, then we'll help with first and last month's rent, all the funds, financial resources to get in. And usually those are our government grants that we write and get. And then the private grants or donations that we get from the community, which is really beneficial as well, are opportunities for us to help them put furniture in their apartments. It's just not getting housed doesn't create, the answers to all their concerns or issues.
Yeah.
So, but that is the first step. So we get them housed and get their units put together. We work with Northwest Furniture Bank or other donations. Community members have done welcome baskets with cleaning supplies, sheets, little things that we just don't think about on a day-to-day basis, that when you're starting from scratch and have nothing, really means a lot. So that's where a lot of the private funds come in. We also work with clients that the goal is to increase their income, help them with schooling, will help pay for different types if they need uniforms for employment, if their kids need things now with everybody learning from home, school resources, anything that will help them. And if we can get those resources, then we work with them or at least connect them to resources within the communities. Sumner Food Bank has been a great partner with us and our clients. We did have a family that was evicted due to the Sumner fires. So those were little additional needs that they had at that time. But as Tanya was saying, the goal is for them to become independent. We get them back up on their feet and, start to create the path that they've looked for and fulfill those dreams that they haven't been able to even consider. So with the community support, we really appreciate it. And being here in Sumner has been very beneficial.
Absolutely.
So if you have any questions, please feel free.
Okay, any council members have any questions? Go ahead, Council Member Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tanya Marie, for all the work you guys are doing. I have a question. Do you, and I may have asked this in years past, do you guys have a partnership with the Address Confidentiality Program or materials to distribute regarding that program?
Not currently. Well, I actually used to be somebody that people could come to and I could sign them up with the program. I suspended that about 3 years ago when I lost some staff, took over as ED. I just didn't have enough of me or staff to go around. And so, but that doesn't mean that we can't hook them up with that.
We can refer them to that program,
Yes,
which
yes.
is also, it is a really good program. So
Yes.
the Address Confidentiality Program allows clients to keep their address confidential, which is very
Yes.
difficult to do, especially when people don't realize, I've had clients that have gone through not even knowing camera traffic sign, and then that ticket with their image of their car, of their location, gets mailed back to the registered house of where their abuser is still living. So there are many ways. So that Address Confidentiality Program is very beneficial in situations where we just don't know. And of course, with all the technology and being able to monitor phones through computer systems, it's really critical. So yes, we do refer clients to that.
Yeah, and I'll just add, it would be my goal to have us get that back so that we can not only do it for our own clients much more easier rather than referring them out. So maybe that's something we need to talk about, Marie, now that we have a little more staff than we did a few years ago.
And if you guys happen to have any additional questions, just I might know a guy. So happy to have a conversation with you at some point, but it's a great program. It's like you said, it gives victims of domestic violence an opportunity to completely redact their physical address from any official document in the state of Washington, even if it's something that's required for filing. So it's a great program, and it's definitely very widely used as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's awesome.
for sure. Even for
Okay.
voting, they do a
Yes.
great job for a very special way in order for clients to be able to vote and keep confidential.
Yeah.
Okay, any other council members have any questions?
Councilmember Newman.
Newman, yeah.
Sorry, I do. Adding on to that, similar considerations for public comment, but that was not my remark. First of all, I wanted to say thank you. With so many of our social services, like any kind of assistance that our community receives coming out of Tacoma, and which is very thin, just thank you for your presence here. I was curious about how clients find you, and also how others can give or donate for some of the things that you had listed that's needed.
Great. Thank you. So we, our clients are referred to us through Coordinated Entry, and that is Associated Ministries coordinates that. There are a lot of different locations where you can, such as the Family Justice Center or the YWCA. There are 211, I believe. Also, clients can call those numbers and get into the system, get referred through, do kind of an application process. And then if they meet the criteria of homelessness, fleeing domestic violence, we're a program that can receive those referrals. So that's, and we do have a website, and in order to get into our program, we need that referral. But we also take a lot of calls just from people trying to get information or support or resources
Yep.
by getting our number from our website online or brochures. Sometimes we'll go pre-COVID, go out to the community and speak at different organizations, but yeah.
And what about giving, like for
Yeah.
material, like sheets?
Oh, yeah, the giving.
mentioned-
Donations.
You want to talk about that too?
Sure.
Okay.
So thank you. Sorry. Yeah, donations are wonderful. We love donations, especially new household items. Right now with Christmas coming up, we're looking at collecting gift cards so that the families can go and actually purchase Christmas items. In the past, we partnered with another organization and they would do a lot of gift and Christmas tree donations. We will be having a similar opportunity to adopt families that we are working with and to adopt a family. And then, you know, we collect from the families a wish, a gift of a wish from the children, and then maybe a gift or need from the mom for the household. And then those that information then is given out to different community members that would like to donate or adopt a family for the holidays. So there is a need for sure, and you're welcome to just even call our office to get that information in addition to what's on the website as far as the need list that we're always using, such as air beds, because when the family moves in, we aren't able to get the furniture right away. So we stock up on air beds so they at least have something to sleep on the first few weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, any other council comments or questions before I go ahead and read the proclamation? Councilmember Potato.
Yeah, could you give us your address or the phone number or the website?
It's your contact information.
Gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Would you like us to put it in the chat
So
comments
you
there?
can see it.
Sure.
We can give it to, well, sorry.
It's the phone number to call us is
Uh-huh.
253-862-6808. And I'll put that in the chat as well so you guys can see that.
Okay.
And we can
thank
get
you.
that out to all the council members.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Thank you, guys. And we have a great website. I would urge you to go on and just check it out. It's just exodushousing.org. It's got a lot of information on it and also more stuff than you'll ever even think that you need to know, but it's a cool website. So I would urge you to check it out.
Okay, yeah, thank you for everything you do, especially in these challenging times when it's needed more than
You bet.
ever. And it's
Yeah.
very much appreciated. I'd like to go ahead and read the proclamation. It's recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a confrontation between family or household members involving physical harm, harassment, sexual assault, or threats of physical harm. And whereas domestic violence is a crime that affects men, women, children, families, neighborhoods, and communities. And whereas domestic violence is a leading cause of injury to women between the ages of 15 and 44 in the United States. And whereas according to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, calls for domestic violence assistance were up 15% in April of 2020 compared to April of 2019 due to the added stress, isolation, financial strain, and increased proximity to their abusers caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas children who grow up in violent homes are likely to also be abused or neglected and are more prone to domestic violence as adults. And whereas through its legal department, the city helps support victims and develops safety plans as well as prosecute crimes related to domestic violence to hold perpetrators accountable for their actions. And whereas the city of Sumner believes that our community, including every resident, should be a place of safety for all individuals. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the city of Sumner once again declares October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and encourages all citizens to actively stand against domestic violence in our community. Dated this 5th day of October, 2020. So again, thank you very much. Continue the great work in these challenging times, and look forward to actually getting back to normal sometime in the future. Maybe this time next year, where we
Yes.
see you in person. But nice to see you on
Thank
this.
you for your support. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you're welcome to stick around, or you can exit and go do other great things.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And I'll get that info in the chat right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to the next proclamation, which has to do with the Great American Shakeout. And I would call on Deputy Chief Jeff Engel. Chief.
Good evening, Mayor Pugh, council members and residents. Jeff Engel, your Deputy Police Chief. Every year, the Great Washington Shakeout is a statewide opportunity to practice how to be safer during big earthquakes. Remember, ever since most of us were kids, we drop, cover, and hold on. It's drop to the ground, take cover under a table or a desk, and hold on until the shaking stops. The Shakeout has also been organized to encourage you, your community, your school, or your organizations to review and update emergency preparedness plans and supplies, and to prevent damage and injuries. Once again, the City of Sumner will participate in this event on October 15th at 10 a.m. That's a Thursday, by practicing the drop, cover, and hold, followed by an evacuation of the building you're in at the time, of course. This year, employees may be practicing from work or the residence due to the pandemic, of course. Last year, 1.5 million Washingtonians participated, and over 80,000 of those folks were right here in Pierce County. So we urge Sumner families, businesses, and schools to register using the link on our city website. It's an easy one, shakeout.org/Washington. This is a nationwide program. That's all I have, sir.
Thanks, Chief. Any comments, questions coming to council of Chief Engel? And tell you what, before I read the proclamation, it's just one of those feelings. I tell you, we have dealt with flooding, we've dealt with plague, we've dealt with fire. And I'm sorry, it ain't a big stretch to have an earthquake hit. I'd give it higher odds than some of the other things that have happened. So anyway, pay attention, to this one. Anyway, any other comments? Okay, let me read the proclamation for the Great Washington Shakeout. Whereas the state of Washington has the second highest risk from damaging earthquakes in the United States, and scientific evidence indicates that Washington is vulnerable to additional earthquakes in the future, and whereas the loss of life and property can be greatly reduced if appropriate earthquake preparedness and mitigation measures are taken before a damaging quake, and whereas Sumner's residents must be prepared in their homes with the peace of mind that their families are prepared, and whereas the time it takes for our city to recover following a significant earthquake will be greatly reduced by well-prepared and businesses, and whereas the people of Sumner can hasten this recovery by being prepared at home and at work and at home, and are thus strongly encouraged to be 2 weeks ready, and whereas minimizing the potential for injury during future earthquakes depends on the ability to rapidly take personal protective actions, and whereas in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic, the more Washingtonians may find themselves in alternate locations from work or school, which provides an opportunity to practice earthquake safety in those new locations and secure those spaces before an earthquake. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Sumner recommends that all residents and businesses register for and participate in the Great Washington Shakeout Earthquake Drill on October 15th, 2020 at 10:15 a.m. Thank you for participating. Knowing what to do during an earthquake will help us avoid the added and unnecessary trauma of being caught unprepared when an earthquake strikes. Dated the 5th day of October, 2020. So all of you remember that. October 15th at 10:15 a.m. at home or at work, practice. Okay, we will move on from proclamations to the consent agenda. Michelle, would you please read the consent agenda?
Item number 1, approval of the minutes from the regular council meeting of September 21st, 2020 and September 28th, 2020 study session, Item 2, approval of the checks and electronic payments in the amount of $1,752,592.43.
Thanks, Michelle. Would any council member want either of these two items removed for separate consideration? Good. Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion to adopt the consent agenda by Deputy Mayor Hayden?
Yes, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Okay, could I get a second by Councilmember Reed?
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor of adopting the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it and the consent agenda is adopted. Public hearings, there is none tonight, so we move on to regular business. Under unfinished business, there is none tonight, and then it moves on to public comment. Michelle, did we receive any emails that would be read into the record?
No, we did not.
Okay, didn't receive any emails into the record. And if I look at the participants, other than staff, if I look at attendees, still have staff, except for Reverend Dion. And so if Reverend Dion's still in the call and wants to make a comment under public comment, please let us know. Okay. Hearing none and seeing none, I would, excuse me, going on to, thank you. Reverend Dion says no comment. So we will then close public comment and then move on to new business. And the first one is ordinance number 2754, budget amendment for parks property acquisition. And I would call on the deputy mayor for a motion.
Yes, I move to adopt ordinance number 2754, approving the 2019-2020 budget amendment.
Could I get a second by Councilmember Reed?
I second that.
Thank you very much. I would call on Chief Financial Officer Cassandra Raymond. Cassandra.
Good evening, everyone. Before you is ordinance 2754. This ordinance amends the 2019-2020 biennial budget to allow for the acquisition of property at 4811 East Valley Highway. This property is being purchased primarily with grant funds, but there is a city match. We will be recognizing $556,500 from the Pierce County Conservation Futures Grant. And the city portion, so the city match of this property acquisition is $243,500. We have resources, we've got capacity for that city match in our Parks Impact Funds, and staff is recommending the amendment of the budget to appropriate those funds. And I believe the next item on the agenda will actually discuss the purchase and sale agreement for the property that this budget amendment is appropriating for.
Thank you very much, Cassandra. Essentially, council would have to act on this to enable us then to move on to the second item for the purchase and sale.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council members, questions or comments of Cassandra? Questions or comments from any council members? Okay. Seeing none, I see that the only non-staff member just signed off, Reverend Dion, so I don't think there's anybody else out there that can comment on this item. So if that being the case, and there's no council comments or questions, I would ask Michelle to call the roll.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yeah.
Newman.
Councilmember Newman, you've been muted the whole time.
Screen flaw. I said yes, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Count it as a blessing.
Yeah. Okay, ordinance 2754 is adopted.
Thank you.
To the purchase and sale agreement for the East Valley Highway property. And I would call on Deputy Mayor Hayden for a motion.
Yeah, I authorize the mayor to execute the purchase and sale agreement between the city of Sumner and Christopher and Gloria Bennett, and any and all other documents necessary to effectuate the acquisition of the property substantially in the form as approved by the city attorney.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Could I get a second by Councilmember Brown? Was that a second to Councilmember Brown?
Yep.
Thank you very much. I would call on Community Services Manager Derek Berry. Go ahead, Derek.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to start off with thanking Cassandra with her help with the budget amendment process as well. This has been a little bit different than our normal grant process. So I'm excited to present the purchase and sale agreement to you for the Bennett property off of East Valley Highway. This is the 3.96 acre parcel that was the former site of the radio tower. The opportunity became available because of efforts that staff and council did with our Parks and Trail Plan update, along with the Bennett's willingness to sell the property. Pierce County Conservation Futures funding cycle started, and we submitted our application. Thankfully, the Pierce County Council was willing to move some projects around, which moved us up the ladder, with our project being funded with Park Impact Fee match. It was a much easier project to move forward with. So we actually got to move forward this year. We were told it was probably gonna be 2021 if we were lucky. So everything worked out well. We began our appraisal immediately after being told by the Pierce County to move forward. The appraisal came back at $800,000, but there was a $5,000 cost for removing the property on site. So our offer was $795,000. The Bennett's countered at $800,000, and we deemed that fine and reasonable. So next steps for us is this purchase and sale agreement that they have signed. We'll be taking this to Pierce County. They will then have a agreement to fund, which is this is where the grant becomes a little different. They actually show up at closing and will wire the money to the Bennett's directly. So we don't ever receive it as a city. You will be seeing that agreement to fund in early or late November, first or third council meeting. Really depends on timing from the county. That'll act as our acceptance of the grant. And we're hoping to have this purchase and sale closed by November 30th. Do you have any questions?
Questions or comments, council members of Mr. Berry? Questions or comments? Wow. Seeing none, you're off the hook, Derek.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, cool. Okay, and there's again, I'll just for kicks check the participant, but nope, we have nobody else on the call, so there won't be anybody commenting on this from the public. With that, Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Potato,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
And the purchase and sale agreement is approved. Congratulations. Nice work by staff on that one. Working with Pierce County to make this thing happen. Move on to ordinance number 2755, amending Sumner Municipal Code 2.100 vacation accruals. And I would call on Councilmember Reed for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move we adopt ordinance number 2755, amending Sumner Municipal Code 2.100 vacation accruals.
I second it.
And thank you for the second, Councilmember Potato. And I'd call on Administrative Services Director Jeff Steffens. Jeff.
Good evening. The ordinance before you amends the vacation accruals for the city's non-represented employees. Vacation at this city is paid out at 100% upon employee separation. Our current vacation cap of 368 hours creates a large unfunded liability for the city. Ordinance 2755 addresses this in two ways. First, it sets a vacation cap of 280 hours for all employees hired after 1/1/2021. And secondly, it establishes a vacation buyback program where employees with large vacation balances will have the ability to sell back their vacation, provided they have been using vacation and there is available funding. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments, council members of Mr. Steffens? Questions or comments? Wow. Okay, seeing none, and, oh, Councilmember Potato, go ahead.
So do you know, do you anticipate how much money this would be if everybody, stepped up and said, I wanted, the city to buy back their vacation hours?
Currently, the way that this ordinance is written is it only applies to those employees that have a balance over 280 hours. So you're talking, I think right now about 10 to 12 employees would be eligible for this program. So it will kind of really depend, probably more get towards the end of the year and have a better idea of what it's going to cost.
Oh, okay. All right. And it's in the budget?
We do feel that we have budget capacity, and the ordinance is written as such. So it's only available if there's funding to do so.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Potato. Other council members, questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Newman,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 2755 is adopted and moves us to the last item under new, which is ordinance number 2756, parking code amendment, 20th Street East. And I would call on Deputy Mayor for a motion.
Yes, I move to adopt ordinance number 2756, amending the parking code prohibiting parking on a section of 20th Street East.
I'll second.
This is seconded by Councilmember Peterson. Thank you. And I would call on Community Development Director Ryan Windisch. Mr. Windisch. Get on yourself, Ryan. There you go.
Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I know it feels like I come to you about every other month with a parking code amendment, but I'll assure you that we received some complaints and this one's definitely necessary for safety reasons. Ordinance 2756 would prohibit parking on a portion of 20th Street East that lies east of 140th Avenue. And 140th Avenue runs kind of right up the heart of our industrial area, some large warehouse buildings out there. And this section of street leads directly to some truck and trailer parking yards and through between some of the warehouses out there. And our code enforcement officer has asked us to take a look at prohibiting parking on both sides, north and south sides of this street, in order to reduce the chances that there would be a commercial truck running into a parked vehicle on either side of the road. I also want to add that there's adequate off-street parking at the facilities up there for both employees and customers. So the recommendation is to approve this ordinance, and it also went to the Community Development Committee on September 23rd with a recommendation for approval. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Questions, comments by council members of Mr. Windisch? Questions or comments? Seeing none and seeing there's nobody else out there to make a comment back to you, council members from the public, I would ask that Michelle please call the roll.
Newman,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yeah.
Brown,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Hayden,
Yes.
Ordinance number 2756 is adopted. Charlie, you started it. Anyway, okay. That concludes the new business. We move on to reports. Reports by the city council. I'm going to just go off the screen. Councilmember Boteto.
Okay, on Saturday morning, I decided to take a walk because Carmen asked, she wants to get the city employees and the council to give their sort of look of Sumner. So I walked downtown and saw the new murals, one at the liquor store, and then the other one is over at Washington Realty. And then I went over to the cannery because there's a lady, Jennifer Flowers, that has had a booth all summer. So I figure my reward was to buy me a bouquet of flowers, and that was her last week. But I was surprised that there were a number of people that were doing the come walk with me. And, it wasn't the official, large event like before, but it was still good to see that there was support from the cannery. And then I know the mayor and Multi-Care, were participating. I didn't see either, like Monica Hurley, but anyway, it was good. And then I walked down Traffic Avenue to see the progress on the interchange at 410 and Thompson and Traffic Avenue. So I'm excited that like in maybe 2 months, we'll have that open. So that was my Saturday morning. And Carmen says there's a new campaign the city is doing is Show Your Sumner. And so they look for some pictures on the social media from there.
Thank you, Councilmember Boteto. Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I noticed the public works employees are out and about. They're all over town doing stuff. And so I'd like to give them a shout out for what they do. They're really busy.
We will certainly pass that on to staff. They always appreciate it when they get recognition because they just don't get recognition all that often. So and really do appreciate it. Councilmember Newman.
I received a text from a relative newcomer asking me about the bras on the bridge. And which I was happy to tell her about, but I want to thank Multi-Care and the cannery. And then as I was looking up the information to remind everyone that there is still a virtual walk this year and you should participate. Thank you, Mayor, for being one of the leading fundraising teams for that. But it just is a reminder. It led to a question as she asked how she could get more involved in Sumner things in general. And so I just wanted to thank those community members because you never know, okay, you can support one event, but what else it bleeds into. So thanks everyone for the community spirit and for the cause.
Thank you, Councilmember Newman. Councilmember Peterson.
Nothing tonight.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, it was kind of a subdued come walk with me, but it was nice to see the mayor and Dave Radcliffe all in pink on Facebook with Monica. So let's get some funds out there and support Mayor Bill's booby team.
It's Mayor Bill's Booby Brigade.
Booby Brigade. I forgot the brigade part.
You have to get the alliteration going here.
Yeah. I got the booby
Anyway,
part right.
Right. And Deputy Mayor Hayden is also a member on that team. So, let's see, last but not least, who is he shut off his video feed, but Councilmember Reed, you have anything to say?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to add this evening.
Okay. Okay, I don't believe I skipped anybody like I did a couple of meetings ago. So I would then move on to City Administrator report. Mr. Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Couple updates. Coming up at next week's study session, we'll be discussing the 2021 property tax levy, as well as continuing our review of the 2021-2022 preliminary budget. And we'll be focusing on the general fund departments. at next week's meeting. At the next regular council meeting on October 19th, I will be holding a public hearing regarding the 2021 property tax levy rate. Also, before you will be an ordinance to adopt small cell 5G regulations, as well as an ordinance amending and adopting our telecommunications franchise regulations. Some personnel issues, just one personnel issue actually. We are currently conducting an internal recruitment for the wastewater treatment facility superintendent. This position would replace Anthony Vendetti, who will be retiring at the end of this year. Anthony he's actually the longest standing employee in the city right now, over 35 years. Some policy follow-up. Just want to remind you that staff will be working with the Parks and Forestry Commission on evaluating the purchase and installation of 1 or more pride benches. That meeting is scheduled for this Thursday with the Forestry and Parks Commission. Some other items of interest, staff has begun implementing a new agenda management software called Civic Clerk. Civic Clerk will provide more consistent agendas and meeting materials, greater council functionality, and efficiencies for staff. You'll start seeing some visible changes to agendas and packets by the end of the year, and training for council and commissioners will occur after the first of the year. This is exciting. This is something that's been long in the making, and it's really going to change some of the ways we operate during these meetings. You may have heard, but due to COVID-19, the city and event organizers have canceled the following in-person major events for the rest of the year. That includes Come Walk With Me, as you mentioned, is now being held virtually. Street of Treats, Bridge Lighting, and the Santa Parade have all been canceled with no alternate virtual events for those. Tree lighting has also been canceled, but there is a possible virtual event, so stay tuned for more information on that. A couple of you have also mentioned the Show Your Sumner campaign. With all the cancellations of the events, we felt that it'd be good to have a virtual celebration this fall. So the city has launched a social media campaign to show all the people and places that make Sumner special. We encourage you to use hashtag Show Your Sumner to share what Sumner looks like to you. It doesn't matter if you live here, work here, or just love Sumner. Show your job, your family, your garden, your favorite mural with some socially distanced friends. Individually, your photos will celebrate who you are. Together, they unite for a beautiful full picture of our community. Once again, it's easy to participate. Just take your photos, post them on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and use hashtag Show Your Sumner. We'll find them and reshare them on the city's social media platforms. And we encourage everybody to like, comment, and connect with others while stay safely distanced throughout the rest of the year. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Wilson? Go ahead, Charlotte.
It's not a question. It's one thing I forgot to thank staff for the book recommendation last week. I'm still here. I'm about halfway into it. It's one I hadn't read before. I'm actually doing an audio version. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you for flagging it and for recommending it.
Yeah, thanks, Charlotte. Okay, what I think is amazing is the resiliency of the community. And Barb in a way touched upon it and walking around of trying to make things as normal as you can during difficult times. And Come Walk With Me is one of those, to where it is a virtual event through the month of October, but you still have teams out there, walking the streets, doing the thing. I did have the opportunity to do a little promo on that thing, and it wasn't just dressed in pink. It was a pink hat. It was a pink shirt. It was a pink boa. It was a pink sequined bra. And, if you're in the overall event and you're out there, well, you don't look really all that different from a lot of other people in the way they dress. But you're out in the middle of a weekday, out on the bridge. We did get, a lot of comments and recognition from passing motorists. And so, good promo for the event, and again, it's fun to partner with the Cannery and Good Sam to do good things about breast health research, and again, try to do things as normal as possible. But like Jason said, some things we just can't because it isn't a safe thing to do. So anyway, with that, I don't have any more comments. Executive session, there is none. And so this meeting is adjourned at 7:04. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.